Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, so welcome back. We are looking at the last video, module for the second week, which would be lecture 10. And in this lecture, we will be looking at global and Indian data of plastic waste pollution. We have seen some of this data already in the previous module. So there will be some similar information, and then there will be certain newer information up there as well. And with this video, we'll cover our second week of the material, which is, if you remember, the concept that was focused on this particular week was looking at the plastic waste sources, whether it is coming, what are the different sources of plastic waste, what is the production data or generation data, how much plastic waste is actually generated, and looking at the global picture as well as the Indian picture. So we saw some global picture already, so we'll see some more, and then we'll talk about some of the Indian statistics, the Indian data of plastic waste production. So continuing with our global data in terms of the plastic waste, this particular graph here, we are looking at the global primary waste generation in million metric tons according to polymer type. So different sources, different types of information, but one thing you will see from all these different slides are that the trend is very similar. We see lots of plastic waste coming from the packaging industry, and there are some other industries which contributes to that as well. Here the example is more on this particular graph is focused more on the type of plastic in terms of the polymer type. Remember that number 1 to number 7, which shows up in the recycling as a recycling number in different products that we use for plastic. So as if you look at different types of plastic, again the number 1 sources are so we see that LD and LDPE, then HDPE, then polypropylene, and these are as per metric ton. So metric ton is weight, and for plastic is one type of material, and which is when you look at from a weight perspective or when you look at from a volume perspective, since some plastics are very low density, so they have lots of volume, but when you weigh them, they are not that much. But since their volume is more, it kind of you see them and you feel like, oh, there are so much of film plastic out there. Yes, there are a lot of film plastic out there, but if you compare that to LDPE, HDPE or polypropylene, they are actually much less. And the PET, then as we go up, you can see the different types of plastic. We have polystyrene, polyvinyl chloride, which is a PVC pipe, PET, which is the water bottle, then PUR, polypropylene, and others are total additives and all that. So as you can see, most of it is LDPE, HDPE, and polystyrene. Polystyrene is the styrofoam as well, which is used a lot in packaging industry. So a lot of plastic waste generated. Again, this data is from 1950 to 2015. So that's a lot of data for 65 years of primary plastic waste generation in metric ton for different types. And if you look at some of this newer data, or if you can break it down to different years, you will find that actually the plastic type of plastic is much less in for the different type of, where you will find that your graph will change a little bit when you look at different time duration. Sorry. Now this particular picture, well, again from the global perspective, which includes the Indian data as well. Here the per capita waste versus GDP per capita. Again, those of you who have taken solid waste, you remember that as the GDP of the country increases, the waste production increases. And we saw that in the previous discussion as well, when we look at the China, Africa, those countries as opposed to European and American countries, the per capita plastic waste generation was much higher. Because wealthier the country, more the packaging material, more the waste generation, more throwaway society as well. But some of those countries also has better waste management system. So if you look at the per capita waste as a compared to GDP, versus GDP this is 2010 values, per capita plastic waste generation rate measured in kilograms per person per day versus the GDP per capita measured in 2011 international dollar. So as you can see, per capita plastic waste is in our y-axis, GDP per capita. GDP is also given per capita, like purchase parity basis, PPP. So this work was again published in Jembak et al. And the World Bank data. You will see here that and the different colors have been shown. Africa has been shown in blue, Asia in maroon, Europe in yellow, North America in dark green, Oceania, which is Australia, New Zealand in purple, and South America in light green. So you can see that as per higher GDP and higher plastic waste produced, Kuwait is right there up there. So Kuwait, that's the Kuwait. You may not be able to see it in that screen right here. I'm sorry for that, but you will be able to see it in your PowerPoint when you give you the handout. You should be able to see those pretty clear because they are okay. But since it's being projected on the screen, you may not be able to see that very clear over there. But that's Kuwait, which is a very high. Then Antigua, Barbuda, and if you look at the other side, which is a very low waste produced and low GDP as well per capita, Mozambique, Dominican Republic of Congo, Liberia, Haiti. Haiti is right there. Bangladesh, although produces quite a bit, but the GDP is much less. Lot of mismanagement of waste. And United States produces a lot right there. United States, Macau, Hong Kong, Netherlands, Germany. So these are rich countries. Rich countries are right here actually. Most of the rich countries are showing up over here, and as you can see, many of these rich countries, it's a beautiful graph actually. If you as you go up, you see that many of these countries are rich, but there are some countries which have programs in place which helps in producing less plastic waste. So for example, here in Sweden or Canada or Singapore, Japan, they produce much less plastic as opposed to as compared to say United States, Germany, Bahamas, Seychelles, Hong Kong, Netherlands, and other countries. Kuwait is of course on the top. In middle, in terms of per capita plastic waste generation, and the value in the circle that you see over there is circle kind of gives you an indication of total plastic produced. So that's why you see a huge number for India and China because our population are huge. And India is kind of in the middle in terms of our GDP, and per capita plastic waste production is very low. But since you multiply it by 1.3 billion people, you see a bigger bubble. Similarly, China per capita waste production is higher than India. It's more than 0.1 kg per person per day. But again, you have to multiply it by 1.4 billion people, which is the Chinese population. And Chinese GDP is also much higher than Indian GDP. So that's why you see over here, China it kind of sits right there, over there. Then we have South Africa, Maldives, Sri Lanka. So pretty interesting graph in terms of per capita plastic waste production versus GDP. Higher the GDP of the country, if you look at it, there is a tendency of kind of going things up. More the GDP, more the waste that is being produced. But there are countries in place which are producing much less as well, and there are some countries over there. So if you do a base fit line, kind of will be something like that, which will kind of correlate that higher the GDP, higher the waste, which is a well-known, well-established data well established correlation we see for other waste stream as well, including for municipal solid waste that we have seen in previous like discussions in different courses too. So, if you look at the total waste and in terms of the total waste, which is the outer circle, then the plastic waste, which is the inner circle in the European Union. So, if you are just this particular one, we are focusing on European Union, and then try to look at their economic activity, and the economic activity in terms of the manufacturing, mining and construction, gas, electricity, water supply, services, household, agricultural, forestry and fishing. So, on top is the total waste for the European Union. So, in terms of the total waste, mining and construction was actually pretty high, 61%, because mining does produce a lot of waste, especially if when you try to do a lot of metallic mines. And recently we visited Haiti gold mine, which is Haiti gold mine, which is in the corner of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. We were in Raichur district, and there presently they are the ore that they are using has 0.3 gram of gold per ton of ore. Think about that. So, from 1 ton of the gold ore that they are using, they are only producing, they can theoretically they can produce 0.3 grams, they are able to extract 0.27 grams and rest 0.03 gram per ton of waste is of the mine tailings is just getting dumped in there as a wastage. So, mining does produce a lot of waste. They produce a lot of waste out there. So, out of 1 ton only 0.27 grams is what is being extracted, and rest is just getting into, there are some other gets recycled within the mining industry, but that was around, they told us around 20 to 25%. So, nearly 1400 tons of mine tailings are being produced like on a regular basis, and that's getting into dumped into those mine tailing big like a disposal area. So, mining produces a lot of waste. So, that's nearly 61% of the total waste in the outer circle. Then manufacturing had 11%, agricultural forestry had 2%, household was 9%, services 7%, gas, electricity, water supply, sewage was 10%. So, that was in terms of total waste. Now, when you look at the plastic waste, kind of you see that big yellow becomes a very small yellow right there at 6%. So, mining and construction in terms of plastic is only 6%. The biggest one in is the manufacturing sector, which has 31% of plastic waste coming out. Household again 14%, which is not too small. Then 23% is the service sector. Then we have 21% from the gas, electricity, water, sewage and waste. So, that is your 21%, and then agricultural is again small at 3%. So, a lot of this is kind of gives you an idea of what is the total waste produced from what's the different stream, and in compared to that, how much is plastic waste, what are the sources of plastic waste in European Union. Most of these graphs are actually pretty interesting graphs. You can spend a lot of time just thinking about and writing things about these particular graphs. This again came from European Parliamentary Research Service blog. So, you can find if you find some interesting stuff, please do share with us. We will be happy to look at. And here we will be talking about some of those things that is going into the in China, which we will get into that discussion in a minute. So, let us look at how things, because the Chinese ban was one of the biggest thing that has happened in recent times, in just less than a year, April of 2018, when China has decided that it is not going to take any more dirty plastic waste from other countries. In fact, we have in one particular week, we'll be talking about that in great detail, what is known as the China sword policy. We'll talk about that and how that is impacting global plastic waste management practices and global waste management, global plastic waste industry. So we'll talk about that. That's a very, very important thing that has happened in just past within a year. So before that, this particular graph is showing us the data from 2016, that plastic that was exported to China by top 10 exporting countries in 2016. And as you can see, if you look at the top 10 countries, around total plastic coming to China was 7.13 million tons. So this much of plastic waste was coming to China, quantity of recycled plastic waste exported to China, measured in tons per year. Top 10 countries was around 5.45. So if you look at the percentage wise, nearly more than 80%, around 80%, 75 to 80%. And one of the major one was Hong Kong, which was one, and then Japan, United States, Thailand, Germany, Belgium, Philippines, Australia, Indonesia, and Canada. So that's where things were coming to China from these countries. Now, what is happening in the global world today is once these plastic waste gets into what is known as the material recycling facility, MRF, which again, those of you who have taken solid waste, you can possibly understand it much better, but others can get, I'll try to just explain it briefly too. Material recycling facility is the place where the waste is taken and different potentially recyclable materials are separated. So plastic is also separated, and then it's a plastic material. It's not a plastic waste anymore, although we are calling it plastic. That's why we call plastic export, of plastic waste exported, but waste which was exported for the purpose of recycling. So it was essentially a plastic material. And since it's a global economy, it's an open economy, people can bid for that plastic waste, for plastic recyclable plastic waste, and whichever country, whichever company bids the most gets that particular material. So since China does a lot of manufacturing and China needed those plastic material, so they were bidding for those plastic from these developed countries, and they were getting into China. So that's why you see so much of waste, plastic waste going into China, because there was a demand for those plastic in China for their manufacturing industry, because China is #1 manufacturer in the world today, and they pretty much you go to any big mall, you find lots of products made in China. So that's the reason why they used to do that. So if you look at how much plastic waste that China import as compared to the domestic plastic waste that they produce. So although China imports plastic waste, used to import plastic waste, not anymore after April 2018. They still can import plastic, but there has to be really clean plastic. So the China sword policy, when we talk about, we'll try to tell you in more detail. It's not that China has totally banned plastic waste import or plastic recyclable plastic import, just they want it to be a cleaner material. They don't want dirty material coming from around the world. They want cleaner material from around the world, and they are ready to take it. But the other countries are saying that if I'm going to clean it in my country, why should I give it to you? I should probably try to use it within my own country. That's what the discussion going on in Australia. This last summer, from May to September of 2018, I was in Australia as part of their Government of Australia Endeavour Fellowship, and there was a lot of discussion going on this plastic in terms of if we have to clean it up in Australia before giving it to China, why don't we try to find a market for this recyclable plastic within Australia itself? And that's because what happened is, from, if you remember from early, if you follow the global world economy and all that, from 1980s onwards, most of the manufacturing has shifted from other countries to China. So China is the place which is doing most of the manufacturing for the world. So that's where the demand for recyclable plastic was. But since now, as you can see over here in this particular graph, China by itself is producing lots of domestic plastic. So this is the domestic plastic waste that China is producing. So since China is producing lots of domestic waste by themselves, they think that why should we take this dirty plastic now? So what has happened over last 2-3 decades, Chinese economy grew, and China's purchase power has gone up. People of China is comparatively more wealthier as they were 3 decades ago. They have been using lots of packaging material. They themselves are producing lots of plastic waste. So the thing is that why should I take the waste from other countries when I am itself is producing lots of plastic waste which I can deal, which I need to deal with it anyway. And so that's the policy was that, okay, now I don't want plastic waste from abroad. If they want to send me the plastic as a material, it needs to be cleaner stuff because I have a lot of dirty plastic to deal with me at my home itself. And whatever is the demand for plastic in my manufacturing industry, I can produce that, I can satisfy that demand from in-house recycling, within country recycling at the same time by producing more plastic rather than taking this dirty plastic waste from around the world. So it was kind of a very smart move for China. First, they took the dirty plastic waste for 2-3 years, developed this plastic recycling industry using the money of the global of these developed countries, because whenever they used to send they used those plastic and take those resources, they developed their market. Now, since their economy themselves have a lot of plastic to deal with, they don't want dirty plastic from elsewhere. This is kind of makes sense. And as you can see in this particular picture, although from 2010 to 2016, there is a very consistent figure of domestic plastic waste produced in China itself, which they need to deal with, which is pretty much like if you look at the percentage wise, probably nearly 80 to 90% of the total plastic that they handle. So this is 10 of plastic per year. So there are lots of plastic to handle in China itself. Now, if you look at the industrial sector where plastic is coming from, again global plastic waste generation measured in ton per year, again 2015 data. Packaging is the number 1. Then other sectors, textile, consumer transportation, electrical, kind of same thing that we have seen earlier. So just a different report, different type of data points, but again similar information that packaging. So if you have to really target one sector to reduce plastic pollution, to reduce the plastic waste, I should not call it plastic pollution. Plastic pollution is where plastic waste is not managed properly and creating pollution. If you want to cut down on plastic waste, it's one of the packaging industry is what needs to be targeted in terms of reducing the plastic waste coming into the disposal stream. And global mismanaged plastic by region in 2010, where we saw a lot of plastic being mismanaged. This is the share of global mismanaged plastic waste by region in 2010. This is measured at the total mismanaged plastic by population within 50 km of coastline, therefore defined as high risk of entering the ocean. Mismanaged plastic waste is defined as plastic that is either littered or inadequately disposed. Inadequately disposed waste is not formally managed and include disposal in dumps or open uncontrolled landfill where it is not fully contained. Mismanaged waste could eventually enter the ocean via waterways, wastewater outflows or transport by wind or tides. So East Asia and Pacific was nearly 60%, South Asia 11%, Sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa, Latin America and Caribbean, Europe and Central Asia, North America was close to 1%. So again, this is the global mismanaged plastic which they are looking at in 2010 of how the places where the waste management infrastructure was not that much evolved, those places you see more chances of plastic getting into the ocean. Now, mismanaged waste, if you look at the mismanaged waste as a percentage of global total in 2010, and similarly we'll look at the other ones as well. Just let me fix this a little bit because that's kind of getting covered in my other stuff. So this should be good. So if I can, so we were looking at mismanaged waste as a percentage of global total. This is 2010. This is the data that was collected. Some of them are primary, some of them are secondary data. This is the global layer of mismanaged plastic waste derived from a given country. So, this is coming from a particular country. Mismanaged waste again is material that is either littered or inadequately disposed. Mismanaged waste could eventually enter the via waterways outflow and all that. So, here they have in terms of the percentage, what is the percentage of waste getting mismanaged. So, as darker the color, you see more the waste, close to 30%, very light yellowish to dark yellowish to finally to purple, to finally to magenta color, where is dark magenta is 30%. So, China, some of the countries in this this islands over there is close to 30%, and India would be sometime around 25, like around 5%. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and though Burma and those countries are in the range of 5%. And if you look at in North America is kind of 0.5 to 1%, and near South American some of the countries are between 2.5 to 5%. So, it kind of gives you a picture of how much this is, gives a picture of the percentage waste like in terms of the global total. So, global share of mismanaged plastic waste coming from a particular country. So, nearly 30% of the waste is coming from these countries, which you see the dark magenta color. Around 5% is coming from the Indian scenarios, where we are getting around 5% of the mismanaged plastic coming from the Indian scenario. So, that gives us a picture of mismanaged waste coming from different countries. And and that was for 2010. And assuming that there is not much improvement of the global management practices, if we try to project it to 2025, you can see that many of those countries now are showing up in the darker colors, like India and other countries which are not in darker colors. These countries are also showing up in darker colors. That means more and more plastic waste will be coming out of these countries. But this assumes that there is no adequate facility has developed. But if the countries develop their adequate waste management infrastructure, this graph will not come true, and we hope that it doesn't come true. So, because this is assuming that there is no change in waste management infrastructure, how that mismanaged plastic will increase from some of these countries. So, mismanaged plastic versus coastal population. As you can see that people which is here talked about mismanaged plastic. This graph shows total mismanaged plastic waste versus total coastal population. Coastal population is the population within 50 kilometers of a coastline. India has a huge coastline, so that's why we kind of we have a lot of population along the coastline, and you see right there. And mismanaged waste is a material that is either littered and inadequately disposed. Same definition that was earlier. So, as you can see, as the coastal population is increasing, mismanaged plastic waste is also increasing, which is because more and more people are there. So, you kind of see a kind of correlation right there. So, as more and more coastal people, more per capita waste generation is of course get multiplied by the population. So, you see more and more waste that is being produced. Some countries which has a lot of population like India and China, Philippines, those Japan, you start seeing them much higher waste coming into mismanaged plastic waste coming into the ocean from them. Per capita, again the same thing, per capita mismanaged plastic waste versus GDP per capita. So, if you put the GDP per capita as compared to per capita mismanaged plastic waste, earlier we had the similar graph where we had the per capita total waste produced. Now, if you look at the per capita mismanaged plastic waste as opposed to GDP, this gives you a very wonderful, this is a kind of a graph like you see a nice thing over here, kind of something like this. Why? Because here of course our population is low, per capita mismanaged plastic is less here, population is less, GDP is also less, but waste is not getting littered around that much. As people have got little bit wealthier, as in this particular area, as people got little bit wealthier, but the waste management infrastructure has not improved yet. Waste management infrastructure has not caught up, is not in the same rate, although the people per purchasing power has gone up, people are using lots of packaging material, we have mall culture has come in, but at the same time our waste management infrastructure has not developed in that particular yet. So we see more per capita mismanaged plastic waste for these countries right here. But as you go to this area, although their per capita is more, they are producing more plastic waste, but since they are able to manage it in a better way, the mismanaged plastic waste is coming down. So it's kind of shows a very nice, as society evolves, as the waste management system evolves for a particular country, you will see a change in terms of how the waste will be managed. So as country like India and China develop their waste management infrastructure, we will see that per capita mismanaged plastic waste will go down over the years. Now, plastic input into the ocean with the fishing intensity, coastal input is also there, impervious surface in waterland, sipping. So, different sources are being shown over here. As you can see, the fishing intensity is much higher in Pacific Ocean as well as in other. So, that's a fishing is the yellow one, coastal input is what the mismanaged plastic waste coming into the ocean or people going into the beaches. The impervious surface are some of this which kind of water sources from rivers and other things getting into the ocean, and some from the shipping industries as well, which you see lots of those gray dots, which is essentially coming from those shipping industry, which are dumping lots of plastic as they travel, as the ship travels on those oceans around globally. So that's again a big source as well. So if you look at how the plastic waste is managed, which we will talk about in great detail later on as well, estimated share of global plastic waste by disposal, recycle is very less, incineration is also happening, but most of it just gets discarded, and many of them are discarded in a very informal way. If you look at from an Indian perspective how the plastic waste has changed, the other waste stream kind of, this is a very interesting table. If you look at plastic here as compared to other waste stream, if you just compare it with paper right up there, and as you can see the paper has gone from, all values are in percentage dry weight. So paper has gone from 3.17% to 6.07%, plastic, which is kind of what, maybe less than double. Plastic has gone from 0.64% to nearly 5%, 4.88. So 8 times. Plastic is 8 times and paper is less than 2 times. So it's 1.5 to 2 times. So and similarly you will see the metals has actually gone down because we are using, and this is I think in municipal solid waste. So in municipal solid waste we have replaced metal with plastic. That's why you see plastics, more and more plastics showing up. Similarly glass, we have replaced glass with plastic. So you see the glass actually went up, but now it has went down because we have rather than using glass, we are using lots of plastic. So that kind of gives you an idea that why this plastic waste is becoming a huge waste stream in terms of the municipal solid waste as well, and lots of plastic waste is showing up in the municipal stream. This is some graph. We'll come back and look at those in detail later on as well. So as you can see the different types of plastic, there is for all different types of plastic there is a consumption is going up. This shows you the consumption data. Different plastic resins, consumptions of different plastic, HDPE, polypropylene, PVCs, those are kind of the top ones. Then LDPE, polysterenes, and those things are also there in terms of plastic resins usage. In market sector, packaging again leads the number 1. Is around 42%, and then we have consumer products 24%, building construction sector. So different sectors are also using those plastic. So these are again based on just 2014 data, so not too old. If you look at the global plastic production with consumption in India and UK, the global plastic production is kind of going up, plastic production in metric ton, and at the same time if you look at the Indian usage as well as the global, all are kind of picking up, especially in Indian context we are picking up quite a bit after there was a gradual increase, but there is after 1995 the slope is pretty high in terms of the plastic consumption that is happening in India. And plastic problem has been being highlighted in Indian context as well quite a bit. We are seeing plastic pollution is being highlighted from a different like you see that in media, top 10 plastic waste generators in India, in Gujarat leads the pack, like I said, sorry, Maharashtra leads the pack, then we have Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, UP, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Jharkhand and Madhya Pradesh. And if you look at in terms of India's metro, in India where the plastic Bhor metro generates more than 1617 tons of plastic waste. This is coming from this is actually coming from the Indian Express newspaper, which was done on the World Environment Day. And here, as you can see, the plastic, the first number, the red number shows the plastic weight tons per day, and then in the bracket they show plastic waste as a percentage of municipal solid waste. And as you can see over here, nearly Srinagar is in terms of percentage of municipal solid waste, in average in Faridabad, Delhi 11%, 10%, which is kind of the highest in the percentage wise, and the minimum you will find somewhere in northeast probably 5.4%, Kolkata is 12%, Dhanbad 5%, if you are in Bhopal you are close to 6.5% of municipal solid waste is plastic. And the numbers, the highest numbers that I see in terms of plastic waste tons per day is Delhi, which is 408 tons per day, which is a big city right there. Then Mumbai would be close, 408 in Mumbai as well, and same numbers. I don't know how it got the same number. Hyderabad is close to 200, Bengaluru 314, and Chennai 429. So Chennai is actually the highest in terms of, but percentage wise it's less. So that kind of gives you a picture that there is a lot of plastic being produced in India. There are a lot of plastic waste generation happening. Average plastic waste generation in India tons per day is 4060 tons per day, and out 7% out of 7% of our municipal solid waste is now plastic waste, which is a big chunk. It's not a small value. 7% of our municipal solid waste is plastic, and since they have lightweight material, many of them, the volume wise they show up a lot. So with that we will close this session, so this is the end of second week. So in the next we'll start with a newer topic. So I hope you are enjoying the course so far. You had week 1 quiz. Similarly for this week you will have another quiz. You had a week 0 quiz as well. So take those quiz. And those of you familiar with NPTEL system, you know that quizzes are very important for your assessment, and I would encourage all of you to take exam as well. So you should register for the exam and take the exam too to get the certificate for this course. Again, thank you for taking this course, and I hope you are enjoying it, and we'll continue this exciting journey of this plastic waste management into week 3 from the next video. Thank you.